All right, I think we are live. What is going on, everybody? It's Randall Thorne 19 with a bloody nose. I have a tissue shoved up my nose because the show must go on, but we are here for the Xbox 2, and with me, as always, we have Jez Corden. What's going on, buddy?
Hey man, I'm worse for wear as well. I got like sore throat or something, which sucks because I'm on vacation this week and I'm ill. Which is so I
Aw.
apologize if I sound a bit weird or nasally today, but yeah, we're both suffering, man. But the show must go on because we do it for the fans, man. We do it for the peeps.
Yeah, plus we couldn't miss today because it was a big Xbox event yesterday, XO19, that me and Jez wanted to talk about. It'd be interesting to see what Jez's thoughts are on the show, considering I haven't talked to him. I'm gonna take this Kleenex out of my nose because it's bothering me. But oh my God, there's so much blood, Jez. God, there's so much blood. I apologize. Like literally right before we were starting, and Jez jumped in here. Like I felt like I had to sneeze, and I did sneeze, and there was this blood all over my hand. And I'm like, oh man. So I had to run to the bathroom. Blood is just pouring out of my nose. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, right before I'm supposed to do this thing, I got bloody nose. Ugh. So now I got a box of tissues sitting right here. Hopefully it goes away. It just came out of nowhere. And I think I told you before, when I was younger, I was on like experimental medicine at one point for something. I had to get my blood drawn every single month, and
Oh,
I one of the side effects was you would get like a bloody nose every day. I would have a bloody nose like every day, and
that's
I
bad.
was afraid of needles. And then once I had to go get my blood drawn every single day for a year, yeah, I don't really fear needles anymore. That's obviously this is we're that's just personal thing. I know a lot of people don't like talking about needles and blood and stuff, but I thought it was just kind of funny considering the situation I'm in right now with blood pouring on my nose. But Jez, we didn't do a show last week.
We didn't. Why didn't we?
Well, you
Because I
tell
was
me. You
traveling.
said you couldn't.
Yeah, I was traveling to the UK, which is where I am right now. So
Traveling
hello
to
from
the
the UK.
UK. What are you doing in the UK? You just on vacation
No,
or what?
I was actually here for a funeral. It's a pretty depressing start to this podcast, talking about blood
Oh,
and funerals and needles.
damn.
But yeah, I was here for a funeral, and now I'm just sort of visiting friends and family and stuff, and I go back to Germany at the end of the month. But it's been pretty interesting in the UK because I can finally try xCloud for myself without a VPN. So
Ooh.
um,
And what are your
but yeah,
thoughts on xCloud since you've gotten to play a lot of it? What are you thinking of it?
I just want to talk about it now. Well, I suppose like there's not that much to say about it because it's still preview and all that stuff. But honestly, it's it's incredible. I haven't used it on 4G yet because I can't get a particularly good signal anyway. But I've played it here at my house over Wi-Fi, and I have pretty good Wi-Fi. I got 200 meg down fiber, and played it at some of the friends and family's houses, and they have pretty decent Wi-Fi too. Like, pretty lucky in the UK that most people have decent Wi-Fi, or at least amongst the people I know. Living in the city, you can just get fiber optic wherever you go. And I was playing Bloodstained last night. Like, it was nearly lagless. It was nearly lag free. It was almost felt like playing native. Like I felt like there was more lag coming from the Bluetooth than the feed itself. But like some of the other 3D games, I think like side scrollers work really well on it, and turn-based games like Civ, which I've also been playing for review. Um, they work really well, obviously. But like the 3D games, like Halo and Gears, is where you'll start to notice the lag a bit more, I think, because as you're spinning the camera around, you can just tell that there's some latency on it. But totally playable. Um, and this is like an early preview, and it'll only improve over time. And then Microsoft dropped the bombshell of 50 games on top of Google, who announced their 12 games for their launch edition. So I'm
Yeah.
pretty excited for xCloud, man. I'm pretty excited for it.
It's I know you're excited for it. It's not something that really interests me. However, I am keen to actually see the tech actually work. I
Have
don't
you tried
really
it yet?
No, no. So we've talked about this. I don't have an Android phone that's 6.0.
Oh yeah. That's right. I
Um,
remember now.
I did, however. So since we last done the podcast, which was 2 weeks ago, I've upgraded, baby. My internet is now, well, maybe not necessarily top tier compared to like other countries, but I went from having 75 down, and I think it was like 5 up. So I was all the videos I make and all the streams I do working on 5 upload, and it just got to the point where I was like, you know what, I need a better upload speed because like I want to like move into like 4K videos, but those take up a lot of bandwidth, and when you make videos, especially if you make a video like 10 minutes long or 12 minutes long or even 8 minutes long, and you're trying to have high quality footage, uploading to YouTube takes like 2 hours. Like my Gears 5 review I did in 4K, I believe, took me an hour and a half to upload. So I called up Comcast, and I'm like, yo, we need to get this new cable box because the one we have is broken. They're like, okay, come bring it into the service center. We'll give you a new one, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and I want to upgrade the internet, because I currently pay like $80 a month for the internet, which it comes with the data cap too, which I ran, I think a month ago, I hit the ceiling on that, right? And they're like, yeah, sure. And they started reading off the packages, and then she got to Extreme. I have Xfinity, by the way, Comcast. And Extreme is like 700 down, 30 up. And I'm like...
It's so funny to me where they're like, they call it Xfinity, but it's not infinite. You have data caps. Right? Like, data caps are an alien concept in Europe. They're an alien concept.
Yeah.
Which is another thing why, like, when I talk about xCloud on Twitter, a lot of people come to me like, what about data caps? I'm like, that's a you problem, baby.
Yeah.
We don't have any of that stuff in Europe.
So shout out to Sin Vendetta for the super chat. He's like, Rand, you play Pokemon with Jez yet? No, not yet, because Jez has let me play Star Wars first because he's a true buddy. Because he knew I would complain like a baby.
You're not getting out of it though, Rand, because we've actually taken quite a lot of donations already.
Well, no, I said I would play it. I'd play it for charity, which, Jez, if you want to put the link to charity in the chat, for anybody that wants to donate to, Gamers Out, it's Gamers Outreach, right?
Yes, we're doing Gamers Outreach. Rand plays Pokemon for Gamers Outreach. That's charity. We're and I will match donations up to $300. I've said. So once we hit $300, I will drop another $300 on it, and then we'll try and push it to $1,000 to see if we can raise some money.
Yeah.
So I will post the link to the campaign in the channel once I find it.
Yeah, and I'll link it in the description for anybody listening to this later. If you want to donate to Gamers Outreach for it. So yeah, Jez is letting me play Star Wars first, and then yes, after Star Wars, I will be playing Pokemon.
You're gonna love it, baby. You're gonna love it, man.
But back to what I was talking about, and they're like, yeah, so you can get Extreme, which is 700 down, 30 up, and I'm like, oh man, that would actually help a lot. So I was like, all right, let's do the bill. And they're like, oh well, we see you've had this internet, the basic package since 2002, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, you've never bundled. Let me bundle your TV and internet for you, right? So I'm thinking like this is going to be more expensive. I'm thinking like probably $50 or $100 more a month. The lady literally goes, oh, so your bill's going to be $10 cheaper. I'm like...
That's happened to me where I've upgraded and it's been cheaper.
I'm like, what? I'm like, $10 cheaper for better internet? Right? So then I had to go to the service center, had to get a new modem because obviously the old one couldn't handle the speeds. And with that package, there are no more data caps. So I have unlimited data, which is weird. So like when you're on the smaller plan, like the 70, like the basic one, 100 up, 5 down, you have a data cap. But when you upgrade to Extreme, they're like, no data cap. You can download as much as you want. And the funny thing is, when I was handing the equipment to the girl at the desk, she was like, oh, so you're upgrading to Extreme, right? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, are you a gamer by chance? I'm like, I do dabble. I do dabble in video games. I do dabble. And she's like, well, Extreme is the best package. And I'm like, oh, is it? She's like, yeah. I don't know if you've noticed playing on the basic modem, but with the really high intense graphics that the games can produce, your internet can't really keep up. And I'm sure you've noticed it freeze frame and hitch. but with this extreme package, your game should be running perfectly. And she said it with the straight
Oh,
face, like this was like a marketing
oh.
thing that Comcast says to like parents or something
She,
about like,
yeah,
hey, are
she
you a
just.
gamer?
I
Like,
doubt.
are your kids
I
gamers
doubt
or
she was
something?
lying. I doubt she was lying. I think she probably just been told to say
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, oh, I did not know that. That's really interesting.
that.
And I just was like, wow, I've actually like your games are gonna run better now because the graphics and all that stuff was like, whoo, okay. But enough of the personal stuff going on here, right? Although I will say, you know what? No, it's interesting. So I get 700 down on the computer. I did a speed test on the Xbox. It was pulling 500 down. And then I downloaded Star Wars, and it was only downloading at 150. A little disappointed in that, Jez. I gotta say.
Yeah, like the Xbox maxes out at about 150. I've had it up to 200 in Germany, but very, very rarely. Very rarely.
Yeah. So what are we gonna be talking about on this episode? Well, obviously our thoughts about XO19 will probably run through quickly. Everything that Microsoft talked about. I'm going to talk about Death Stranding here in just a minute because I finished it last night. The upcoming battle between xCloud and Stadia, because Stadia had an AMA, which didn't go very well, Jazz, right?
Yes, apparently not.
And whatever else we kind of feel like. So, if you enjoy the show, if you're just waiting for it, just sitting there or whatever, and you don't have anything to do, just click that like button. Super free, super easy, doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the like button, press that share, get more people in here because Google does a piss poor job of it. And yeah, so Jez, what have you been playing? I know you've been playing Pokemon. Tell me what
Yeah.
I'm going to be experiencing here next week, probably when I finish Star Wars. Are you enjoying Pokemon right now?
I am indeed, and there's a lot of hate and upset about Pokemon because, as we know, half the Pokemon have been cut out from the game, but there's also lots of little things that people are annoyed about. So, like, Pokemon's gone up to $60 this time. It was always priced a little less because it was on the 3DS and it was seen as a handheld game. So Nintendo have put the price up to 60 now. So there comes with that an expectation of, you know, it being a full-blown proper console game. So people have been comparing the graphics to Breath of the Wild and complaining about that, and some of the weird engine quirks, like if you're climbing on a ladder, the whole game freezes while you're climbing on the ladder. Like there's just loads of little engine quirks that you might have forgiven in a $40 or $50 handheld title, but not so much a $60 console title. So I think like the transition to full blown console hasn't been easy for the company, but as a sort of like as someone who just enjoys Pokemon, who doesn't really get into the whole IV EV training stuff and the breeding and the end game, I'm enjoying it. You know, you're gonna get a cute RPG with your Pokemon pals, go camping in the wild, cook some curry, play with your Pokemon, you know, go fishing.
Go fishing.
You're gonna love it, Rand. You're gonna love it, baby.
Give
I
me.
know you love food mechanics in games.
Oh, God. Give me your honest opinion. Like, playing that game, knowing what I like, am I really going to enjoy Pokemon or am I going to hate
No,
you?
you're gonna hate me.
Oh, my God.
You're
Really?
gonna revile and detest me, and I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna love it, baby, because I just like to see you suffer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's not. It's bad enough that Ubisoft is teasing Splinter Cell and putting it in mobile games. Like I don't have enough suffering on my plate, right? That now I have to you basically blackmailing me into
Guilt
playing
tripping.
Pokemon. Like, you know what? I'm gonna donate to charity, and if you don't play Pokemon, then I'm gonna say you're a horrible person. So it's like, of course I have to play Pokemon. So. Ugh. At least I get to play Star Wars first, though.
Yeah, I gave you that one.
Yeah.
I bought Star Wars today. But I haven't touched it yet because Pokemon. I've also been playing Civ 6 for review. Um, Technically, the game's already out for the Switch, and the PC, so I can talk about it, I guess. I mean, my final review score and stuff for Xbox and the way it performs and the way it handles on Xbox controller, like, I suppose I can't talk about that, but Have you ever played Civ, Rand?
Yes, I
Something like that.
played. I played one of them. I played the one on the 360. I think it was Civilization
Ah,
Revolution, I believe.
yeah.
I actually
Like,
quite like that game.
yeah. So Civ 6 is like it's the full blown civilization, and I like these kind of games, but for some reason I've just never really played Civ. Like I've bought it on PC in Steam sales and just never got round to it for some reason. But um, I've been playing it via Xbox console streaming. So like I've been around friends' house and stuff. We've been drinking, watching TV, and I've been playing Civ on my home Xbox 5 miles away to my phone via Xbox console streaming just to test it out. And my God, man, like people talk about how you get hooked on Civ. I had no idea how bad it was. This game is crack. It is so addictive, and you basically just like you start off from like the medieval age, and you evolve your growing empire. It's almost like a board game kind of. It's all tile based, and you grow your empire, and you evolve from like medieval crossbowmen into like building nuclear weapons and all that sort of stuff. And it's strategic, and the graphics are really nice, and all that sort of stuff. I love it. It's super addictive. So I've mainly just been playing Pokemon and Civ, and and I've been playing a ton of Call of Duty as well, Modern Warfare.
You still liking the
Um,
multiplayer?
I love the multiplayer. Like I've stopped playing the ground war mode because it just started really annoying me. Like I think they've so the ground war mode's kind of like their battlefield mode with tanks and stuff like that. But like it just got ridiculous. Like the Call of Duty, the time to kill on Call of Duty is so fast that um it's just so much chaos. And I think they've actually nerfed the tanks now, so I might go back to it. But I've just been playing like team deathmatch and hard point and domination and all those new modes, kill confirm. I absolutely love it. I think it's the best Call of Duty in use. I'm I'm just loving it, man.
I mean, I
It's
really
so nice
enjoyed.
to be able to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the campaign of Call of Duty. Like, I don't care about the multiplayer. I know I'm weird for saying that. I know I'm the minority. I beat the campaign. I beat it actually twice. I did it once, and I did it again on Veteran. I haven't touched anything else of the game. Like, I didn't play multiplayer. I didn't play co-op, and I don't care. I get that game for the campaign. So you can call me a pleb, like Kingsblood in the chat. Call me pleb Althor for my internet speeds. Which is fair enough. I mean, 75 down, 5 up is pretty plebeian, But I've upgraded. I've evolved.
I was
Um,
just looking at what packages I can get. The most I can get is 365 down, and that costs me £160 a month, which is what in dollars? GBP in USD. That's $206 a month. So
it's
I think you're
expensive.
getting it is expensive, but you also get TV with that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So what was I talking about? I completely lost my train of thought.
You're talking about being a pleb because you had
Oh
no
yeah,
internet
well
speed.
yeah, I'm a pleb. So I play Call of Duty for the campaign. Sue me. I really enjoyed this one. And I finished Death Stranding, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, but I wanted to briefly talk about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Because I did start that game after I finished Death Stranding at 4 o'clock in the morning, or 3 o'clock in the morning, or whatever it was, after sitting through a 2 hour final cutscene, or 2 hour final. I wouldn't even call it's not a cutscene, or all of it's not a cutscene, but like I wouldn't exactly call it gameplay either.
Finale,
Yeah,
epilogue.
a finale, epilogue, whatever you want to call it, but it's long. You better like pause that. You better go, take a piss. You better go make a sandwich because you're going to be sitting down with that controller and you're going to just be sitting there watching. But I had to start Star Wars Upright. I have been looking forward to this game ever since it's been announced. Respawn has literally never let me down. Like you look at Titanfall, one of the best games from earlier in this generation. Titanfall 2 had one of the best campaigns for a first-person shooter. Multiplayer wasn't as good as the first one. Apex Legends, potentially maybe the best battle royale, came out of nowhere and dominated. And even before they were Respawn, they were Infinity Ward, and they made Call of Duty 2 and Modern Warfare 2, like incredible experiences. And then back when they were with EA, they did the original Medal of Honor, which was great. So I knew I knew they were going to knock it out of the park with this Star Wars game. And sure enough, I played through the intro, and it definitely does seem like Sekiro meets Uncharted with Star Wars. A lot of climbing with Uncharted, a lot of like high octane set pieces, and then it kind of has the lightsaber combat, but more of a simplified version of it than Sekiro features. But dude, I gotta say, just from like the first 30 minutes, I know I'm gonna love this game. It's probably gonna be in my top 5 for Game of the Year, and I cannot wait until we finish this podcast, and I'm gonna go plop myself down in front of my TV, and I'm gonna play Star Wars all night long. And then probably, if I play it the way I think I'm gonna play it, like I did with Death Stranding, I'll have that game done by the end of the weekend. Like,
Damn.
absolutely, like, I'm telling you, like, I could tell right away. I could tell immediately that this game is for me, man. I could immediately tell. Like, and it's interesting because they talk about how it wasn't even really a Star Wars game to start out with. It was something completely different, and then they got the Star Wars IP and they kind of, made it a Star Wars game. But whew, man,
I didn't know that.
yeah, it's very pretty. I'm playing in performance mode on the X. But man, I mean, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I'm not like the biggest Star Wars fan you'll meet. I'm sure there are people out there who like breathe Star Wars. But I'm a pretty big fan. I do like the franchise. So it has the gameplay, it has the cinematics, it has the set pieces, and then it has like the lore and the story on top of it, and it seems like this is going to be an incredible experience. And it's getting all pretty good reviews. It's not like Death Stranding where you have 20 perfect reviews and then you have like a whole bunch of like negative reviews or like really negative reviews and then stuff in the middle. This game seems to be kind of sitting at like a few 9s and a whole bunch of 8s and maybe some 7s and some 6s. And I think it's coming out in 84, which before Death Stranding was a terrible score, right? 84 was a trash game. But ever since Death Stranding came out, 84 is, pretty good score, right? Imagine, it's interesting how those things kind of work out, right?
Yep. I knew you could just tell that it was going to be a solid game, and Respawn have had like such a good track record. All I hope is that EA takes some notice, because they've had a tough couple of years, so we say, for EA. I'm sure they're crying with wiping their tears away with $100 bills, but they haven't had the best couple of years, especially in the eyes of like core gamers and stuff. Like Anthem was a massive fail. People are mad about even the FIFA community is mad at the moment. Battlefield 5 had a rocky start. It's picking up a bit now, but it hasn't been a good couple of years for them.
Yeah.
And,
well, Battlefield 5 added the Pacific Theater, right?
Yes.
Which is
actually a very good map.
Which a lot of people are very, very excited about, and they say it's pretty good. But I do have a question from Ermi. He says, Rand, will this whole YouTube COPPA thing affect your channel in any way? Keep on seeing content creators posting videos on it. So if that's what I think you're talking about, that's something to do with if you make kids content. So basically,
you have to declare if you make
yes. So in your channel settings, you have to declare whether or not you make content for kids, and you can go just say no, I never make content for kids, and it'll never ask you again, or you can say yeah, I do sometimes. So you can either do it at the video level or the channel level. I did it at the channel level because I don't make content for kids, and I thought maybe it's like, well, maybe I do. Maybe there's some younger kids who watch my stuff, but then I was reading what they consider kids, and they're talking like preschoolers, and they're talking like young kids, and I'm like, preschoolers and super young kids, they ain't watching my channel. Like, and we do swear from time to time on the podcast. I don't maybe swear in my videos occasionally because YouTube doesn't like that stuff. So no, I basically said this channel I don't make kids content. I'm more kind of worried about like the fact that YouTube updated their terms of service and said, hey, we can basically delete your account if we find your account isn't commercially viable for us anymore. I did find that.
I think that's just to cover themselves legally.
Probably. I'm sure it is to cover themselves, yeah.
I read something where they were basically like, they could do this before, nothing's actually changed. and they're just sort of clarifying it for legal reasons. Like someone could have, like, for example, if they shut a channel down for political reasons, that they could argue that YouTube hurt their business or something. Like that's possibly come up in court proceedings, and YouTube can just be like, "Well, it's in our terms of service that we can close your channel for commercial reasons, so you can go away." You know.
Yeah.
So I think it's just to cover themselves legally. I don't think there's any big deal.
Yeah. But the game I've been playing pretty much all week is Death Stranding. A game.
Yeah. So tell me about this, because I don't. I've without spoilers, because I do plan on playing it when I go back to Germany. My PS4 is in Germany, and it'll be the first thing I do is buy Death Stranding, and I'm really excited for it as a Hideo Kojima fan.
Man,
So let's hear it.
is there a game that's been more divisive than this in recent memory? Not only like the game itself and the review scores, but how people talk about it, how it's this experience that's never been done before in gaming, and it's super transformative to like Kojima's quotes about the reviews and how like Americans like a certain type of game, and Death Stranding aims higher, even though supposedly he was mistranslated, and people kind of went super angry at him and stuff like that. Because obviously, like, if you look at the games that are reviewed, super high, it's really not first-person shooters. Like, I think the highest reviewed game this year is Sekiro. It's just that, sure, probably the most popular genre in the United States is shooters, Fortnite, PUBG, Call of Duty, and stuff. But reviewed games, it really isn't the first-person shooter. So he has all the comments about the bad reviews. How Europe and Japan, they appreciate like artistic merit more so than Americans, which rubs people the wrong way, right? And then of course there's the game itself. You have 20 perfect scores or whatever. You got reviewers talking about, is the game fun? The game's not fun. The game takes 15 hours to get fun, and it's all this like superlatives and stuff. And then you have these other reviews that are like, this is the biggest pile of garbage I've ever played. And you know what? I could see both stances on this one, because I do like Death Stranding. I finished the game after 45 hours. I think I'm like Porter level 240, which is how they rate you by
Porter level.
Yeah, you get rated by how well you complete missions. Now, the game is a delivery simulator. That's all you do. It's a delivery simulator on top of a movie, right? And the beginning of the game, they set up the story, they set up this sci-fi narrative that is super interesting to me. I'm a sucker for sci-fi stuff. I've said this on the podcast. I've said it plenty of other places. Time travel and sci-fi stories, they hook me, because that's what I like. That's what really interests me. So immediately, right away, in the first hour, I was hooked onto the story that Kojima was trying to tell. And then you get into the actual gameplay part, which is what everybody makes fun of on Twitter, because they see the GIFs of Sam with like all these packages on his back, trying to climb up a mountain, and then like stumbling, falling, and then all the packages basically, fall off. And everybody like laughs, like, is this your king? Does that look like fun? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I will have to say, like, that aspect of the game, of delivering packages, is weirdly fun to a certain extent. He definitely gamified the concept of inventory management and stacking things on your person and balancing yourself to get to one place to another. However, like those early footage you see of people stumbling is completely negated later on, because as you deliver more packages, you can essentially carry more stuff. You can keep your balance longer the more you deliver stuff. And then as you complete deliveries for certain outposts, they give you equipment to lighten the load. Like you get an exoskeleton that you can put on that lets you carry like triple the weight, or an exoskeleton that helps you balance your endurance, so you're not always like stumbling. And then of course you get vehicles that you can essentially use. So a lot of that stuff is early game where you're stumbling around. Later in the game, you're definitely you have the tools to make it a lot easier, and you can get across the map relatively quickly with the use of vehicles. So, I mean, I dug it, dude. I dug the story because it's really just about connecting the world, bringing people together. But it does have some issues, okay? It really, really does. For starters, the combat, piss poor. Absolutely piss poor. There are enemies in the game, the mules who want to take your packages. It's absolutely piss poor, like trying to take them out. I kind of tried avoiding those as much as I could. The stealth segments with the BTs, which are these ghosts, kind of tense in the beginning, because if you get caught, you kind of get dragged down to the sludge, and then like a bigger BT monster dolphin thing will like pop up out of the ground to try to get you. And at the beginning, none of this is really spoils, Axel. Like, this is all like stuff introduced early in the game. So that the BT stuff is tense in the beginning because you kind of have to stealth around, but eventually by the end of the game, it's trivial stuff. The boss fights, while visually striking, absolutely visually striking. What is that? Was that like phone like
Telephone?
3 times? It's weird. No. While the boss fights are visually striking, like what you're doing during them, the gameplay itself is pretty bad. Right? Like, and I mean pretty bad. Like, the visual splendor of these bosses and the areas you're in and stuff, like, wow, jaw-dropping. But like what you're doing is just so poorly implemented. And I don't want to spoil who you're fighting or what you're doing, but like the whole inventory management kind of rears its ugly head during those fights. And while I enjoyed the spectacle of the boss fights, the actual execution of trying to defeat them was piss poor. And then there's the self-indulgence of the storyline and the narrative. So at the beginning, he doles out all the story, sets up the world. So the first like 3 or 4 hours, you have tons of story, very little gameplay, right? And then you get into chapter 3, and it's just nothing but gameplay. Nothing but gameplay for a while. And I was really hooked into it because it was fun to play. Like, I was looking forward to, getting my level up, grinding out some levels, getting better equipment. And then they introduced the online aspect, which is perhaps the game's best thing, right, Jez? The whole strand aspect of it. You can see other people's things that they've built. So obviously this game's about traversal, and it's in a mountainous area, and it absolutely looks gorgeous, Jez. This is one of the best looking games I've ever seen. Like, Kojima knocked it out of the park with the presentation and the graphics and the cinematography. Like, some of these shots in here are absolutely incredible. And
it's the Decima engine, right?
It's the Decima engine, which, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, or Horizon Zero Dawn. But God, this game, when it comes to PC, when it's in 60 frames, 4K or whatever, it's going to look incredible. And it probably look even more incredible on the PlayStation 5. But holy crap, the visual splendor of this game is ridiculous. But the online aspect might be the best thing about the game. Because it takes that Dark Souls, like the Dark Souls leaving messages for people to kind of either troll them or help them out. It like actually builds upon that and makes it a core mechanic of a game that I would like to see other games take and run with because it's so cool, right? So
are you saying that he has created a new genre?
I wouldn't say it's a new genre because Dark Souls did it first. He's just expanded on it and made it like more. No, I wouldn't say it's a new genre because it really isn't. But the mechanic of seeing other people's structures in the world, because as you go, you'll come across like mountains that you have to climb, and they give you gear. You can have gear like ladders or climbing anchors to come down mountains. You'll eventually be able to build like zip lines. You can build structures like generators with power your battery in the cars, bridges to traverse like rivers and huge ravines, right? But when you connect to the online aspect, when you get to a center and you bring it online to the network, you can see other people's structures. And because maybe I started 2 days after everybody, a lot of the places I was going to already had things built. So someone had already built a bridge over a river. Somebody had already built a generator that you could, basically recharge your batteries. Somebody had left the bike out so you could, get in your bike and go. Somebody had built a zip line and a zip line network so you can use that. It's really incredibly cool. And then there's this highway network that runs throughout the whole map that you and others actually contribute materials to, and it builds and builds, and the game will tell you hey, so and so has contributed materials to your project. And it really does feel like it's a community coming together and kind of helping everybody complete the game. That is probably the best aspect about Death Stranding, is that whole online aspect.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was even a thing. I knew it had multiplayer, but I purposefully, when I know I don't have to cover a game, I tend to avoid it and just try to go in blind and enjoy it. And I trust Kojima, so I completely ignored that. But that sounds amazing.
Yeah, no, the online stuff is absolutely incredible. I hope more games take that aspect, improve upon it, and do it. It's really cool because it's not your typical multiplayer. You're not really playing with everybody, but people are helping you out, completing your journey. The game has such a positive message about, hey, society is fractured, right? You need to come together and connect everybody together, help each other out. It has such a really positive message that, I 100% agree with. But of course, Sony let him do whatever he wants, Jez. This is a very self-indulgent game, and it goes from the story, because there's a lot of unnecessary, overtly complicated dialogue, and then not to mention the ending. The ending is so self-indulgent, it is close to 2 hours long. Not a cutscene in particular, but there is some gameplay. It's just like, if it was another publisher or somebody else, they would have cut down on some of the fluff in this game. But for the most part, I really enjoyed Death Stranding. I couldn't wait to finish work, studying, or finish a YouTube video to get on the PlayStation and just play this game. Be immersed in the world that Hideo Kojima and Kojima Productions built. It's just, some of the aspects, I don't know, they could have been much better. The boss fights could have been better, and the boss fights mainly hold back because the shooting mechanics are piss poor. The BTs, while tense at the beginning, they become trivial at the end. So that stuff, and some of the dialogue and some of the way the story goes aren't exactly the best, which is why I can't say it's a 10. And I'm not even sure it's a 9, so I'm right in the 8 range. I'm at an 8.5. I really enjoyed my 45 hours. I think he's onto something with the Strand aspect. I think it's the best thing about the game. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Death Stranding. I might maybe go into a more depth video later on or whatever, but I enjoyed it. I really did. I don't think it's the best thing ever. I don't think it's one of those things where it's you just didn't understand the message of the game. The message is pretty goddamn simple. You know what I mean? He wraps it in this overtly complicated message, but it's very simple message. And of course, there are things that happen. You just would have to play it, because I that would be getting into spoiler territory stuff. So because I need you to play this game, Jez. I need you to play this game and tell me what your experience is, because
I will.
Because there are plenty of people, even reading chat here, that I can't really recommend this game because it's the gameplay is so divisive, because some people won't like the idea of just delivering packages. And even from the videos I watched, I wasn't sure if I would like that. But playing a game is way different than watching a game. And that's never been more apparent than ever before than with this game. Because watching it, I thought, man, this game's going to be boring. I don't want to do deliveries. I don't want to traverse through the mountains. But then actually playing it, I was like, hey, this is actually really good. So yeah, I can't wait to see what you think about it.
Well, I'm definitely going to get to it in early December, as I say. I just need to get back to Germany first, and but I'll make that my priority when I get back because I don't think there's any games to review in December anyway. So yes, that should be interesting.
Yeah,
It
shout out to
sounds really good. That's the best indictment I've heard of it yet.
yeah, shout out to Raymond Murrell. He says sounds like Project Spark mixed with Silent Hill. Um, I wouldn't say Project Spark. I mean, you don't really change the world. The world's set up. You just kind of have tools to traverse it. They give you a lot of tools. They give you a lot of materials, so you can like build things that at your leisure. You want to like go on this mission and bring a ladder and bring this like PCC, which is something that can create like a generator or a bridge or a watchtower and all that stuff. They give you the tools, and it's going to be interesting when you play it because I wonder how the online aspect is going to play out for you. I wonder when you get to an area if most of the stuff is already going to be built because a lot of it, at least at the beginning of the game, that's how it was for me. A little bit later in the game, not so much because I wonder if that's because people haven't really gotten towards the end. Because there is a section in like chapter 5 that is pretty long, and if you don't do it the right way or the smart way rather, you're probably going to be like, this is bullshit. All I'm going to say is zip lines are your friend, people. If you're coming up to chapter 5 or later, when they introduce zip lines, they are the coolest thing in the game, and I recommend putting them down everywhere because it lets you traverse large distances super fast. So stock up on zip lines and use them a lot because it makes it so easy to get around the map, whereas like in the beginning of the game, it's a little bit difficult. But I like Death Stranding quite a bit. It's definitely probably going to be in my top 5 for Game of the Year, and it's a game I didn't think I would enjoy. So that's why I always play games for myself. I don't get upset about review scores and things. I always just experience it for myself, and I like Death Stranding. I don't care if some people might say, you know what, Rand, you're just a Sony pony. You like everything Sony does. No, not true, because I thought Days Gone was entirely mediocre.
I still need to play that.
No, you
Oh, my
don't.
backlog's ridiculous.
No, you don't
man.
need to play Days Gone.
I do need to play
game's
Days
as
Gone.
mediocre as it gets. You can play any Ubisoft game and get the same experience as Days
No, I
Gone.
can't because it's got zombies in it. Gotta play it because it's got zombies in it. Okay. I'm one of those people who just can't get enough of zombies. If a game has zombies in it, I'll play it. If a game's post-apocalyptic, I'll play it. I don't care about anything else. But
Yeah.
the backlog is real, and the backlog's gonna get even more real. If you paid attention to XO19.
Yeah, so let's delve into XO19. Like the big thing obviously from yesterday. Talk of social media. I gotta say, Jez, the discourse surrounding this show was
I ignored it. I ignored all of it because I knew it would just be painful if I paid attention to it.
it's very very mixed. Like a lot of people say it was a trash show. Obviously, there are a lot of people that say it was a great show. I don't agree with either. Like I don't think it was a great show, and I don't think it was a trash show. I thought the show was just okay. Now, with that said, with me saying the show was just okay, one thing did pop out to me, and I said this to you before the show. I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if it's just coincidence or whatever. But a lot of the games shown at XO19 definitely had a similar stylized, cartoony aspect to it. Which was, like, I'm not sure if that was intentional, if that was just how it all played out. Like, obviously, Microsoft can't control the look of, like, third-party games. But I definitely was like, okay, this game kind of is whimsical. This game is kind of kiddie in a way. This one has different, interesting art style. They all kind of looked very similar, which a lot of people had a problem with.
I'm old enough to remember when Xbox was getting slammed because every game was dark and grey. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Well, I suppose the key there is diversity, right? You want a diverse range of art styles and stuff like that. And I guess it was just loaded with colors this time around. But there is another company that gets away with having a cartoony art style and loads of colors, and nobody seems bothered about it, and that's Nintendo.
Mm.
So why is it okay for Nintendo but not Microsoft? And that is presuming they don't make games that are gritty and photorealistic, because they do. We got Halo Infinite coming. Age of Empires is looking pretty detailed and realistic, if maybe a bit colorful. And then Gears of War just came out. Gears 5,
Mm.
Forza, photorealistic. And people always say, "Oh man, they all they make is Halo Gears Forza," and now people are saying like, "Oh, we want them to make more Halo Gears Forza photorealistic games, Space Marines." It's you can't please everyone, I guess. Wasteland 3 is pretty gritty and violent and bloody and dark and gritty, but I get that the gameplay is not going to be for everyone. But
Yeah.
I don't
Axel
know. I think
Axel
those
says
games will come.
Axel says, "Hey, I've been listening to you both for 2 years now. I have not heard you say any show was great, so I'm curious why all this show mediocre at best." I didn't think it was mediocre. I didn't say it was mediocre. I said it was okay, and I'm pretty sure I said E3 2018 was pretty damn good. Like the year where they announced all those acquisitions and stuff. I thought from top to bottom that was a great E3 for Microsoft. I was disappointed with this E3 for sure, and I've said that in my own videos, and I even told Phil that I didn't like the show. And I thought it was bad. I actually liked the show better than E3, mainly because I don't know, it felt quicker. Like it wasn't as boring. See, being bored is a big thing for me. So if I'm watching your 2 hour presentation and I'm looking at my phone and I'm not paying attention to what's going on and I'm bored, then you've lost me and I don't really care for it. I watched the entire presentation. I didn't look at my phone at all. And normally, if you watch Inside Xbox, it can be pretty boring. Like they got rid of the cringy dialogue. It was mostly just game reveal to game reveal. A couple of the segments went little long, but we'll just talk about like what they kind of the big talking points, like Rare's new IP, Everwild. I thought it looked great. I dug the art style. It's exactly what I expect from Rare. Do you know anything about the game, Jez? I mean, I know it looks like it's third person. Is it 3-player co-op? It kind of, judging from the trailer, definitely seemed like that. It's a Scarlet
I
game as far as we're aware of, right? Like this game is still years away from coming out.
Yeah, I have no idea what the nature of the gameplay is. I mean, we can kind of there are hints, right? We know there's multiplayer, and we know there seems to be stealth elements, like the characters were crouching and stealthing around and stuff like that. There's like loads of different kinds of animals. Dude, what if it's like their Pokemon?
Huh. You think it's their Pokemon?
I don't know. But they did seem to like put an emphasis on like different kinds of creatures and stuff like that. Like it could literally be anything. My concern is that it'll just be like an experimental sort of walking simulator game where, there'll be like flat progression like Sea of Thieves. I hate flat progression so bad that Rare seems to like it. So
You're talking about the progression as in like you do a bunch of stuff in Sea of Thieves and all you get rewarded for is cosmetic things, right?
yeah, it's like I suppose
See,
what you call it.
see,
That's horizontal. It's horizontal progression,
See
not
that
vertical.
that's where at least Death Stranding gets it right. Because even though Sea of Thieves and Death Stranding are both kind of about deliveries, with Death Stranding you actually level up. And when you level up, you can carry more stuff, you can keep your balance. There are upgrades you get for your like guns and your exoskeletons that when you complete more packages you get better versions of it. So it definitely has
See,
proper progression to make the game easier,
well, there you go.
to do.
That's that's how you fix Sea of Thieves for people who want vertical progression. You
Hmm.
make it like after you've delivered 1,000 chests, you should get better at it. And there are people who've been playing Sea of Thieves for God knows how long. They should be better at delivering chests now. Like pirates should be able to like, I've carried so many of these Reapers chests that are heavy. I'm bulking up. I'm getting all these gains. I should now be able to carry 2 or 3 chests and balance them around. That's how Rare can take some inspiration for Death Stranding and give that game some vertical progression without really affecting the competitive side of it. Because like I get they don't want vertical progression in the sense of people get more power because then it'd be unbalanced. If there's like a level 50 pirate running around, with I don't know more powerful weapons or better armor or something that kind of defeats the point of the shared world. But if they make it easier to deliver stuff, then that could give you the vertical progression that I crave without unbalancing the combat. So Kojima could have saved Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, Yosemite Blam, yeah, he hits us up in the super chat and says, if Everwild is just third person Sea of Thieves and Woods, I'm gonna be upset. I think it'll be as far from Sea of Thieves as possible. Like, to me, that game gave me a lot of Ashen vibes, like a very more colorful like Ashen than Sea of Thieves.
And floaty.
Yeah,
it gave me an Ashen vibe too.
I think it'll be different than Sea of Thieves. I mean, I think it'll have obviously a co-op aspect to it, clearly. But I'm intrigued, and the fact that, see, this is what I've always said. Xbox, remember the whole narrative that Phil doesn't like to show stuff early at all? And, I like Phil quite a bit. I've talked about on the show, like, he's done a lot for me personally. I talked to him yesterday. We were talking about XO. Like, I'm a bit biased when it comes to Phil, right? Because I consider him a friend. We played games together and all that good stuff. I don't know, where was I going with this?
You were saying that it defeats the narrative that he doesn't announce.
Yeah, so it defeats
right.
this whole narrative that Phil doesn't like to reveal stuff early. I've always said isn't true. It's just a pile of bullshit. It's just something he had to say because for an extended period of time there wasn't anything to show because they had nothing in development. Finally, now they have 15 studios, they have a ton of games in development, and suddenly they're showing Rare's game, which by all accounts is probably 2 to 3 years away. It didn't even have a date. So I don't want to hear that Phil doesn't like to show stuff early. He clearly does. He showed Ori and the Will of the Wisp back in 2017, and that game's not coming out till 2019. He showed Halo Infinite in 2018. That's not coming out till 2020. You know what I mean? Like, if the games are there, he will show them. He just got burned, and because he got burned with Scalebound and those other games, and the funding was severely cut to Xbox and didn't have a lot of stuff in development, he couldn't show anything. So always showed the same things that he's been showing. Now that that's been lifted, he can show whatever he wants. You're going to see them teasing more stuff that is farther away. So I've never believed that, because if you knew the situation Xbox was in, you'd understand it. So that was Rare News IP. Matt Booty came on stage. He talked about that they've moved away from acquisitions, Jez, that it's all about execution and delivery. Do you think we've seen the last of Microsoft acquiring a studio?
Well, this is interesting because there's a contradiction. Matt Booty said, I don't think we're acquiring any more studios. But I think Phil said in another interview that he doesn't think we're done acquiring studios. So someone put that in.
Uh-oh. Jez, where'd you go? Alright, well, Jez must have either disconnected or whatever. Maybe he's fussing with his mic. Yeah, he definitely. He just dropped out of Discord. So
Hello?
There you
Hello?
are. Okay, you're back.
Stupid Discord. So yeah, I was saying, like, someone dropped in on our newsfeed on Slack that Phil had said something like that in another interview where he doesn't think they're done doing acquisitions yet. So so they've contradicted each other there.
So
and I suppose.
So are we back to Microsoft? You know, the right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing? Are we really back to this?
Well, I guess it's a case of like nobody's really fallen on their radar that they want to acquire yet. And maybe Matt Booty was speaking to that aspect of it, but Phil's kind of like, if the right studio comes along, then yeah, we'll do it.
Right.
And
so they're just shifting their focus from acquisitions to execution. Not saying that they're not going to buy new studios, is that their focus is on creating the content for the studios already made.
It seems like, in addition to that, it seems like they're focused on acquiring top tier talent, because the lead producer of World of Warcraft just joined In Exile Entertainment.
Interesting.
Did you see this?
I did. I mean, I don't care about World of Warcraft, so him joining In Exile means nothing to me. So
no, but it's like, from an analytical point of view, it's kind of odd that the top dog of like the world's most successful MMO and one of the world's most successful games of all time has joined In Exile. So that speaks to me of pretty lofty goals, maybe. And like you see these sort of personnel acquisitions all the time, like high flying devs and artists and stuff jumping ship from other studios because Microsoft presumably offering them very good wages and deals and stuff like that. So like the the acquisition the acquisitions go beyond mere studios. It also goes to like the right talent, building those studios out to get them to the next level, to go take them from double A to triple A. I noticed Wasteland 3 is up for pre-order for $60. So they consider it to be a triple A title now.
Right.
And honestly, having played the alpha, I would also consider it to be triple A title. Like XCOM 2 sold for full price, and I felt like they totally deserved to sell for full price. I totally feel like Wasteland 3 could deserve full price as well. Because it's no longer like Wasteland 2 had loads of content, but it was janky as hell. Wasteland 3, already in its pre alpha, felt polished with like, high quality UI, high quality voice acting, and all that sort of stuff that you expect of AAA production values.
I did
And
think.
XL jumped up pretty quickly, I would say.
Well, I was surprised that they did end the whole conference on In Exile's Wasteland 3, which is coming out in May. It looks cool. The problem for me is like I don't really like that XCOM style. Not saying I won't try it out
Yeah.
when it comes out because it'll be in
You
Game
know what I
Pass.
think?
Um,
I think Microsoft's identified um, Wasteland IP as something that could possibly take on Fallout. I reckon, like, because In Exile have made 3D games before, like Bard's Tale is 3D, but it's pretty janky and double A at best. I think like Wasteland could easily split into like a first-person sort of RPG, like Fallout's mainline, and then Wasteland, I don't know, Tactics or something.
right.
As like, I reckon they could do both easily if they grow the studio enough. I think like the Wasteland IP has a lot of potential, is what I'm saying.
No, I
Especially
mean
as
sure.
Fallout is flagging like it is.
And I would also say Outer Worlds. I mean, I don't know if you saw, but it charted number 2 for MPDs.
Yeah,
Second best-selling game outside of Modern Warfare. I mean,
that's epic.
that's a huge get for Obsidian and for Microsoft. They have an IP that people really seem to connect with in a way that
Yeah,
Microsoft really lacked this entire generation. Like, we can talk about the things Microsoft did wrong, but maybe the biggest thing they did wrong was maybe not creating new franchises or games people connect with outside of Ori and the Will of the Wisps, right? Or Ori
yeah,
in general, which has a sequel. But now it seems like with Obsidian, they kind of, I don't want to say lucked into it, but they really kind of lucked into a franchise that people want. And also with the deterioration of Fallout, people are looking at Outer Worlds like this is that game. And with it selling so well and getting incredible reviews, I'm sure like Microsoft's being like, all right, Outer Worlds 2, 100% go, more money to make it a better experience, better production and stuff. Like they've got a winner on their hands with Obsidian. But before we talk about Obsidian's new IP, I do have to shout out a couple super chats. We got one from Snazzy Crowd. He says, "You and Jez rock. Keep on doing a good job." Thank
oh
you.
wow, thank you.
And we got one from Spider-Man. He says, "Do you think Microsoft is just showing all the smaller games now and saving heavy hitters for E3?" I mean,
I think so to some degree. Like we always speculate about Fable, right? And whether Fable, like what's Playground working on? The size of Playground's team is growing rapidly. Like I was looking up vacancies across the studios. Playground has by far the most. They are hiring for 60 positions to grow that studio. Clearly, whatever they're making, Microsoft wants it to be a pillar flagship title. It has to be Fable. Like I can't imagine what else it could possibly be.
yeah,
So
I mean,
that's an E3 game.
it's been
That has
rumored. It's been rumored for so long. I expect we'll see whatever they're working on, whether it's Fable or whether it's something else, sometime next year. Um,
yeah.
like that's the heavyweight showdowns next year between PlayStation and Xbox. So I do think like this was more about like the value of Game Pass and what they're doing with xCloud right before Stadia than it was really about like let's wow people with our first party lineup, because they're going to have to do that next year when they also talk about Scarlet, because they didn't talk about Scarlet here at all, even though they are talking to Scarlet about the press in some instances. Like Phil said, they won't be beat on price or power, essentially meaning that like yeah, the Xbox One, we kind of screwed up on price and power, but we're gonna be right there with PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now Obsidian's new game, this got people really in a mood. Uh, it's called Grounded. It's basically Honey I Shrunk the Kids.
Awesome.
Very
Imagine.
kiddie style. And people, here's the thing: people like to speak without knowing the facts. People see Grounded and they see this game and they immediately get on there and be like, Microsoft has ruined Obsidian. Very much like they said the same thing with Ninja Theory when Bleeding Edge was revealed. Oh my god, Microsoft is ruining Ninja Theory. They've turned them into Game Pass fodder. All this
Yeah, I
stupid
noticed
stuff.
like
It's the same.
they had like when they announced that stuff, like the PR was this was made by a small team. This is part of a passion project. We've still got our main team working on other stuff. Like they had to. I kind of hate that they had to qualify that we wanted to make this game, but like, don't be mad at us, gamers. Don't be mad at us. Like, it's so annoying how entitled people can be. You know, like
Well,
let artists
it's
create
weird
art.
because in one breath we talked about Death Stranding, and it's clearly a game Kojima wanted to make, and clearly a game that he had free reign to do whatever he wanted, And then
Yeah,
people are like, you go for it, Kojima, right? And then you have Obsidian, who's like, hey, we love survival games. We wanted to make one. We were making one. Microsoft, after they bought us, they saw it was production and be like, yeah, put it out. And it's a passion project made by 12 people of a studio of basically 200. And people are like, oh my God, Obsidian's dead. Like, how could Microsoft do this to them? So it's like in one instance you're praising Kojima for making the game that he wants, but then you're downplaying Obsidian because they're making a game that is a passion project for them. See, a lot of people, they're just, I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot of console war bullshit that goes on in all this, and but like sometimes people just talk without knowing the facts. And while I'll say right off the bat, like I have no interest in Grounded whatsoever, like none. Like the whole survival genre is something I don't care for at all. I thought that game looked too cartoony for me, and this is coming from someone who enjoys different art styles and many different games. Like when we get to like Artful Escape and stuff like Last Stop, I think those games look beautiful. I even said Rare's game looks great. So like I appreciate different art styles than just photorealistic AAA or the standard kind of visual palette that most games go for. But that game doesn't interest me like on any level, visual, gameplay, or anything. But hey, I'm all for Obsidian making whatever game they want to make.
see,
So
like I love those kind of games, right? I love them. So like you know, we had an idea about what Obsidian was working on for a little while, and the moment I saw them building stuff, I was like, yes, yes.
I hate building. I hate
I
building.
love building
I
things.
hate building.
I
I,
love
I, I
building.
hate
I
building.
love food gathering.
It,
Like my colleague played it at XO yesterday. Matt Brown, shout out to him. Matt Brown has worked so hard, like because I've just been swanning off on vacation. Matt Brown went to London. He's interviewed like six. He's done 6 interviews. He's interviewed Matt Booty. He's interviewed Aaron Greenberg. He's interviewed the Age of Empires team. He's interviewed like basically everyone. And we've got a load of great content come up on Windows Central in the next few days. Like answers to questions that you've been DMing me about and stuff like that, about all sorts of things. So look out for that. Like we don't have a huge team over there like IGN and GameSpot and stuff like that. We just had one dude who did all this work on his own bat. So shout out to him. And I forgot where I was going with this. Oh yeah, he played Grounded at XO19. He played it, and he said that he didn't like the look of it while he was watching the show, but then he played it and he punched an ant to death, and that made him like it. So
interesting. I
I,
mean,
I kind of like the idea of punching an ant to death, Rand. I don't know about you.
I mean, sure. I'm not saying I'll never play it. I mean, I do play a lot of games, and I did start the podcast off by saying I didn't really seem interested in Death Stranding gameplay, and I played it and I liked it. So I'm just saying my first impressions of Grounded is like, yeah, I'm not really interested in it, and I don't blame anybody for saying that stuff. This wasn't for them or isn't for or is for them and stuff. Like I don't, that's not, like stuff doesn't bother me. It's usually when you put your opinions, like your opinion's the only right one. You know what I mean? Like that's when it's like
Yeah, I hate it when
has an
like
issue for me at least.
people. Yeah, I hate that when people try to speak for others. Like a YouTuber will go online and say this game's trash, like it's an absolute, when he should be saying I don't like this kind of game personally, you know. And he's like trying to, but it sounds less authoritative. But like people who can't think for themselves, they will listen to that, and then they will be like, oh, I don't want to be uncool. I'm gonna take on his opinion as well, or her opinion, as the case may be.
Yeah.
And people just can't formulate their own opinions. Like I have like pretty out there taste when it comes to gaming. Like I know it's like a lot of the core conversation revolves around like these third person action games and stuff like that, and I do like those, but I love strategy games. I love weird games. Like I'm really looking forward to Death Stranding. I like playing indie games. I like games with, I like survival games. And I know like they ain't mainstream, but a lot of these games are super popular. Like Ark Survival Evolved, super popular. Minecraft's still super popular. Minecraft survival mode. So I think people just need to let people enjoy things, dude.
Yeah. I will say though, they had a trailer for West of the Dead and Rust. Rust is finally coming to Xbox. They had a really long segment on Kart Rider Drift that probably didn't need to be that long. I felt that was maybe the lowest point of the show. Like
You know,
they
Kart
went
Rider
on
Drift.
way too long. Kart
You know,
Rider
Kart
Drift.
Rider Drift has 380 million players.
I mean, I had never heard of it until the show yesterday. But that
Me neither, but it has
so
380
I
million
mean
players.
that's a lot of people. I'm just saying, like, I think that interview whole went on too long, and then they went into Bleeding Edge, coming out March 24th. It's $30. They showed off a new character, and you know what, Jez? As I was watching that new trailer, I was just like, man, these characters look so great. I really felt it's such a missed opportunity for that game not to have some sort of story in the same way I felt
Yeah,
about
I agree.
Overwatch. Like in Overwatch, they create this great world. I mean, I know they're delivering the story content with Overwatch 2, but like you have all these great characters and this great world and this backstory you built for Overwatch, but you didn't capitalize on any of it. It's just a multiplayer game, a great multiplayer game at that. And I see Bleeding Edge and I see these fantastic characters, right? Like really, really cool art style, very stylized. And I'm like, God, I would love to play like through a co-op actions single player set in that universe rather than just be like, well, this is just a multiplayer only experience. Like, I understand like it was a passion project. They were making that game well before Microsoft acquired them. But watching that trailer, that was my first thought. I was like, what a missed opportunity not to make like a single player out of this game or a co-op like experience or something, right? At least that was my
Well,
takeaway.
when I played Bleeding Edge at E3, I thought I was actually like I watched the trailer and I thought like you, I thought wow, the characters look great, but the gameplay doesn't look that great. And then I played it and I was like pleasantly surprised. And I was like, wow, I can see this having potential. But like after like they haven't really changed that much throughout the beta, and I'm not really feeling it now. I don't think like it just every time I play it, I just think, you know what? I'd rather be playing Overwatch. And I had that problem with Battleborn 2 and a lot of other similar games. Because like it just feels like Overwatch, but not as good as Overwatch. And if you're
Mm.
making a game that's similar to a game like that, you better either have some very unique mechanics, or you better at least be as good as that game. And that's basically how I felt about Battleborn. Is Battleborn was 30 FPS, whereas Overwatch was 60, and that pretty much sealed the deal for me. And I get that Battleborn had the creeps on screen and all that extra stuff, but it didn't matter because the fundamental gameplay mechanics were similar. And like even like the heroes in Overwatch that are melee based just feel more fun to play than Bleeding Edge for me. And I don't know what it is. But like there are games like Smite, and like if you like Smite, maybe you'll enjoy Bleeding Edge a bit.
I
Because
mean, I've
I
played
don't
Bleeding
know.
Edge in the alpha a few times. I've enjoyed it a couple times, but then a couple of the other times, not so much. It really depends on
Um,
who if you're communicating, if you're playing with people you know versus a team that knows what they're doing.
yeah.
It's it's definitely gonna. For a lot of people, I would imagine Bleeding Edge is gonna be like this. March 24th happens. They download it on Game Pass, whether it's on PC or on Xbox. They play a few games and they probably uninstall it because it's definitely for a specific audience. You know,
I do hope that it finds its audience. You know, 'cause just because I like the team and like it's clearly a passion project and stuff like that. Like I never want to see a game fail, but I don't know. I'm a bit iffy on that one.
right? And then they showed off a trailer for Planet Coaster, which looked pretty cool. Artful Escape, I mentioned that game looks
Planet,
absolutely
yeah, Planet
amazing.
Coaster.
Planet Coaster. And then they showed off an exclusive from Dontnod, which I thought was really interesting. It's called
Yeah,
Tell Me Why. All the episodes are dropping summer of 2020, so no episodic stuff. And Jez, I gotta ask you because I've been feeling this way for a while: is the episodic gaming format completely dead? Because it sure as hell seems like it is.
I think so. I tell you what it is. It's like there's just so much. I think episodic maybe works if you're very, very tactical with the releases of the episodes and you release them in periods where there isn't much else to play. But a lot of the times these episodes come out and it's like, oh well, I'm playing this at the moment, and then like it just gets longer and longer, and you just forget what's happened, and you lose interest in the story and stuff like that. Like I played Life is Strange when they just released episode 4, I think, off the top of my head. Like I was pretty late. I played episode 1, and then I skipped it for ages, and then played it when it was basically finished. And they're lucky because I played it when I had nothing else to play. But there's just so much to play now because we're getting towards the end of the gen and the backlog's ridiculous and stuff like that. Like, I'm not sure I'd be able to fit it in. Like the whole dynamic of the video game library is evolving because like next gen we're gonna have all of our games from Xbox One and PlayStation 4 coming across with us. So like that backlog ain't getting any smaller. Switch
Nope,
over
it's
to the
only
next
it's
gen.
only gonna get bigger. But
Yeah.
also, I mean, this game features a trans character, and I would imagine a lot of gamers and a lot of people are gonna be upset about that. You know,
Yeah, maybe.
maybe. I mean, I think I've already seen some tweets from people saying already upset about it because, you know, I mean, it's a topic like I don't want to get into here, but it's definitely uh, makes people feel certain one way or another about it, right? And then they got the xCloud, right? And this is, man, I saw your tweet. You're like, "Rip Google Stadia 2019 to 2019." My
Yeah.
the presentation. Okay, so here's the thing: the presentation at the show was pretty bad, mainly because I think they had a technical problem, like the teleprompter went out. Um,
Yeah, it did seem like they were trying to remember what they were supposed to be talking about.
yeah, and
And Kareem was leading the
yeah,
chat from EA. Like that section segment was a bit awkward, but the
it was
meat
very
of the
awkward.
announcement,
No,
yeah,
yeah. So the meet. So it's like Kareem. Seemed he was fine. The lady they had next to him, she clearly was like out of her element, right? And it takes a certain person to present in front of people. I don't know if it was because the teleprompter went out or she just got nervous, but like that whole segment came off very like awkward. But yeah, so the big announcements: 50 new games added today. From Devil May Cry 5, Madden 20, a whole bunch that you can play for free if you're in the program. You can test out. It's coming to Windows PC in Canada, India, Japan, West Europe in early or in 2020. They added support for Razer controllers as well as the DualShock 4, which is, I think, very smart because it basically allows PlayStation gamers to play Xbox exclusives on xCloud without even needing to buy an Xbox controller because they already have the controller. They have a DualShock 4. All they really need to do is just sign up for Game Pass on the PC or somewhere, and just you don't even need an extra controller. You can just game, whether you want to play on your tablet or play on your PC or play on your mobile device. They basically also mentioned that xCloud, which is weird because it was a weird announcement. It was like they're going to bring cloud streaming to Game Pass, basically implying that xCloud is going to be in Game Pass. So if you're signed up, you'll be able to stream all the games from Game Pass to the cloud. Am I missing anything else here, Jazz? Because it seemed like a lot, and
the press release was worded very badly.
it
The press
was.
release said something like, "Man, I'm gonna pull it up right here." because it was really confusing, and like our team was confused about what they were trying to actually say here. It's like it was written by. It's like it was rushed. Like it was just really strange. Let me see if I can find. Blah 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 blah. xCloud. Come on, man. The Xbox News websites looks really weird nowadays. They've changed the
Yeah,
layout again. Um, oh man, xCloud.
xCloud.
Expanding projects xCloud with more games. Right. So this is exactly what it says here. Um, right. Doing it the way that requires over 3,500 games on Xbox One today, and 1,900 games currently in development are already working on xCloud. Now, some people took that to mean that xCloud is going to have 1,900 games. But that's not what it means. What it means is there are 1,900 potential games because developers still have to approve the release of those games.
Yeah, but
However, that gets even more confusing because underneath that it says in 2020 we will enable gamers to stream from the cloud Xbox games that they already own or will purchase.
which implies any game that you do buy, you'll be able to stream.
Now, again, that is confusing because someone at Xbox PR basically told me what that means is you'll be able to stream games from the cloud that you own or purchase if they're included in xCloud, right?
Okay.
However, someone else at Xbox told me that yes, it does mean all the games. So even Xbox seems to be confused about what that actually means. So I've asked PR to give me a definitive clarification on what that actually means, but it's taking some time because obviously they're all super busy and they're all over in London right now. Um, but I essentially think that means games, people will be able to play games that are included in xCloud if they've purchased them outright and they're not subscribed to Xbox Game Pass. However, they will also be able to stream games from Xbox Game Pass if they're included. Now, because I don't think every game's going to be included, because some devs just they won't want to do it. I mean, it's a no-brainer, but maybe maybe they've got an exclusive contract with Google
Yeah,
Stadia.
like
Maybe they've got an
Ubisoft, for example.
yeah, maybe it's there's things like that to consider. So I don't think this means all your games will be available, but I'm trying to get clarification because that seems too good to be true to me.
Right, and then the next part where they said they are going to be bringing cloud streaming to Game Pass, like it's
Yes.
worded weird because it's almost like, okay, so is the xCloud subscription going to be part of Game Pass, which makes sense because PlayStation Now is now also $10. It offers digital downloads as well as streaming. So if you're going to be competitive in that, then you got to include access to xCloud as part of the subscription to Game Pass, right?
Yes.
It's just kind of, but it's not really clear, and it's kind of vague. So it's like, what does it really mean? But when you compare it up to Stadia, who had an AMA the other day, and they're like, okay, our launch lineup is literally 12 games, and 3 of them are Tomb Raider games. Like, yeah, there's Red Dead Redemption 2 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Like, do you know how badly, if Xbox Scarlet and PlayStation 5 launched with 12 old games, and that was it, you know how badly they would be destroyed by the media and everybody?
Yep.
I would laugh at them. Be like, you expect me to spend that much money on a console to play these old games? But then, okay, it's not a console because this is all cloud streaming. But then it's not just about the launch titles. It's like, okay, then they said the achievement user interface isn't going to be ready. They said the Buddy Pass isn't going to be ready for founders either. They said that the only way to buy games is going to be through the phone, a phone app, which you can't even use the PC to buy games. So you need the phone app, which is only going to be available on I think it's available on iOS. I'm not sure if it's available on Android, but you can only stream to like Pixel phones. Their family sharing isn't available, so they basically said if you want to share a game, they recommend buying another version of the game for somebody else. Like, oh, really? That's your whole, like, oh, so you recommend me? Like, I don't know. Like, the pitch
They
for
also had like one of their exclusive devs literally said in an interview, "We don't even know if Google Stadia exists or if it's not already in line to be cancelled." And that's one of their own devs said that. So It's not the smoothest console launch I've ever seen in my life.
I
And
mean, it's. I don't think it's a console. I mean, it's a lot. I think it's just early beta access. I think clear. I think
it's
the
paid beta access.
right. I don't even think you want to call this a launch. Like, I think the launch that they're worried about is the free version that comes next year. Because remember, this one, if you want to get it, you have to pay the $10 a month to get 4K and
Yeah.
5.1. But judging from their launch lineup and the fact that the user interface isn't finished, the fact that you can only buy games on the phone, this is clearly designed to get out this holiday and get people accustomed to it before they launch next year, before the new consoles come out. And I'm so curious to see how people are gonna like look at, like, for an Xbox gamer or a PlayStation gamer, you look at Stadia and you're thinking to yourself, why would I ever use Stadia? Because Xbox is basically telling you, look, you're in the Xbox ecosystem, you buy a game from us, we're going to give you the option to then take it on the go if you want, right? And even if you're not in our ecosystem, if you sign up for Game Pass, you can stream 200 games as part of that subscription. With Stadia, you sign up for the $10 thing, the only game you're really getting is Destiny 2, at least right now. So if you're not really interested in that, like, what's the point? So even from PlayStation's vantage point, they have backwards compatibility. It's like, why would any PlayStation or Xbox gamer switch to Stadia when both PlayStation and Xbox have local hardware? They're probably PlayStation probably we already know they have PlayStation Now and they do some of the streaming and some of the downloads. I would imagine at some point next gen they also add like the ability to play some of the games that you buy on a mobile device and stuff. Like, I don't think Stadia is a proposition for console gamers, especially with new hardware coming out. So it's like, who's Stadia really for, in my opinion? Is it for the PC crowd? The one that builds... It can't be for the PC crowd that has the $2,000 gaming rig. So is it just for the PC crowd that has like a $500 PC that wants to play the latest games on their TV or whatever? It's just this weird proposition that my first thought when I saw the xCloud news was like, Stadia is launching with 12 games. xCloud just added 50 games in a preview for free for people to test out. They're adding xCloud to Game Pass. They're basically saying you buy the game, you can stream the game. Like, I don't know. Like,
I don't. Right now, Xbox. You can't argue. You can't possibly argue that xCloud isn't destroying. You can't argue against it. Like, it's just they're offering that many games for free as part of the test. 50 games, and it works well. And yeah, can't be into the test right now, and you have to rely on invites and stuff like that. And maybe there ain't that many invites going around. I don't really know. It's hard to tell. But if Microsoft can keep this level, if Microsoft can keep this service quality that I've got right now, and I'm probably the only person in my town using it actively, but if they can keep this level of service quality and it's got this many games in and it works this well, I don't see how Stadia can compete. Because like Microsoft already has all of those studios in place making games for xCloud. Like, why would you bother with Stadia? The only way Google could possibly beat Microsoft here is by leveraging their search engine and leveraging a YouTube to try and push Stadia to audiences who probably don't even know xCloud exists. That's the only advantage Google has here, is that they have such a vast, much bigger audience of eyeballs that they can get on board with xCloud, whereas Microsoft would have to buy into that marketing, So it's even though Stadia is like a worse product, they might be able to, because of the services that it has and the search engine it has, they've got a lot of power that Xbox doesn't have to get the word of Stadia out there. Like, I bet you right now, Stadia probably has a bigger mind share than xCloud, probably. Even though even though xCloud's objectively a better service right now, but it's hard to say. And but one thing's for sure, Microsoft is not being complacent about it. They are not being complacent about it.
Well, the only thing that I see that Stadia does have over xCloud at this point is the ability to play on your TV at 4K. And kind of like next gen console versions, like that's what Stadia is going for, Whereas like xCloud is just Xbox Ones in a rack. Who knows when they'll upgrade those racks to Scarlet versions. So like that is an advantage that Stadia does have. Like you'll be able to stream to your TV through Chromecast and play in 4K, which you won't be able to do with xCloud. But then Microsoft does also offer the console experience in addition to the xCloud experience. So, I mean,
And then for Black Friday, like the Xbox All Digital Edition, which is, the most comparable version to Google Stadia, considering Google Stadia doesn't have a disc drive either, that's going to be $150.
yeah,
And it'll probably be even cheaper. So, I don't know. Anyway, Rand, I have to be right back for a moment, so you're going to have to regale people with tales of nosebleeds and stuff for a couple of minutes while I be right back.
Yeah, well, I'll just get through some of the smaller stuff. So, like after that, they had the Black Friday deals. You can pick up an Xbox One X for $350 or a SAD for $150. Honestly, the SAD, I don't know if you guys will agree with me in chat. The SAD should have launched at $199 and probably should have been $150 from the get-go. I mean, the $150 price point is what you would want the SAD to be at, because at $150, a digital system, a system that doesn't have a disk drive kind of becomes an impulse buy if you're like not really concerned that much. It's like, well, it's not that much, right? $350 is a good price for the X, but I mean, we are 1 year away from Scarlet. It's like, are you really going to spend $350 today on Black Friday for the X when you more than likely have a $500 Scarlet, which is going to be better than an X in every possible way? It's going to have a way better CPU. It's going to have a more efficient and better GPU. It's going to have, an SSD hard drive. Like, I don't, like, it's almost like you sit there and think to yourself, it's like, is it worth it to buy an X? If you're, is it just, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, should you just save the $350, add an extra $150 to it, and then buy yourself a Scarlet next year? I almost think like that's the better approach. I wouldn't want to buy an X right now because the better system's coming out in a year from now. But that's just me. Microsoft then announced they showed off a trailer for Drake Hollow from the Molasses Flood, another one of those kind of kiddie style like survival building games. Not for me. Halo Reach December 3rd. Finally, it really seems like forever. They've been talking about bringing this to PC and Halo Reach. In fact, I think it was like April, if I'm not mistaken, when they originally made that announcement on Inside Xbox that Halo was coming to the PC and that Reach was coming with it. And it just seems like it's running into nothing but issues, which on one hand is great that they've delayed it as long as they did. Because honestly, who wants a repeat of Master Chief Collection when it launched in 2014? Do you guys remember how bad that game was when it launched, like November of 2014, all the multiplayer problems it had? Like, the fact that they obviously learned their lesson, which is great, because you don't want to launch a bad product and a product that doesn't work. But it is interesting that they wanted to release this game way earlier than they did, and now we're finally getting Reach in December, when a year from now we're going to have Halo Infinite. It kind of feels like some of this kind of pushbacks their plan. Like, it kind of felt like they wanted to release like Halo Reach sometime in the summer, and then maybe have Halo 1 out already by now. Like, maybe have Halo 1 or Halo 2 out for the holiday, because that's the ones people want to play. They want to play Halo 1, and they want to play Halo 2 and Halo 3. And I would imagine like Halo 2 would have been like, oh, Halo 2 is available in Master Chief Collection on Steam, and people would have went crazy because that's the multiplayer one that people really like. But the fact that they've had to delay Halo Reach all the way to December 3rd, who knows when we're going to get Halo 1? Who knows? I mean, are all the Halo games going to be out by time Halo Infinite comes out? Or are the PC crowd going to be so still into the Halo multiplayer experience that they're not going to give a shit about Halo Infinite? I mean, that thought has kind of crossed my line a little bit. I'm looking forward to playing through Reach again. We'll see if I have the time to do so. I loved Halo Reach's campaign. Like 4K 60 is going to be great to experience that game again. Halo, as I've always said, is my favorite franchise, bar none. There's no other franchise that comes close for me personally, obviously, of course, when I speak like that. And Halo Reach was Bungie's last game, man. It was their farewell. And, man, 343 just hasn't combined both elements yet. You know, Halo 4 had a good campaign, crappy multiplayer. Halo 5 had a amazing multiplayer, crappy single player. Halo Infinite absolutely needs to have both. It needs to have a great campaign. It needs to have a great multiplayer. Finally, you know, it's third time the charm for 343. And I will say, if they don't nail that aspect of it, if Halo Infinite and if 343 doesn't nail this game, then leadership has to change at 343. People need to be fired because 3 games is more than enough time. You've given this team 5 years to make the new Halo, and they're still having the same problems. Like, people at the top need to be removed at that point. If that does happen. So I am a little worried about Halo Infinite because it needs to be great. Microsoft needs Halo Infinite to be a fantastic experience from top to bottom. They can't afford that game to be like, well, it's a 4-hour campaign and it's bad, and the multiplayer is great, or hey, the campaign's great but the multiplayer's crap. Like, they need a game that is just amazing from start to finish on all aspects of that. And I dearly wish Halo Infinite, or Halo in general, just come back to be as big as it once was. I know it's not possible. You know, I know Halo Reach, or Halo in general, has seen its time. Like, it was the biggest thing ever back during the Halo 3 days, and it'll never regain that glory. But there's a part of me that sees Halo Infinite and sees the push on PC and what Microsoft was doing with Game Pass and xCloud, and it's like, I think Halo could have a reconnaissance where people are talking about it again very positively. But of course, that starts with the game actually being good. I need it to be good. But then they showed a trailer for Microsoft Flight Sim, and God, that game looks absolutely amazing. Potentially the best looking game ever made. What's up, Jazz? What is it?
Man, Amazon Echoes are annoying.
What'd you think about Flight Sim, Jazz? Because I think it's one of the best looking games ever made, if not the best looking game ever made.
It looks pretty damn stunning. I mean, Microsoft's team that, like, they do the laser scanning for vehicles, right? So they've, like, presumably they've been laser scanning planes and stuff like that because they look so realistic. But the real headline feature of that game graphically is the fact that all the maps are rendered in real time and then procedurally generated using AI. So I think they use like not Bing Maps, Open Maps or something, or some kind of satellite service that already exists, and then they like scan the photograph and then use an AI to procedurally generate the buildings and all that sort of stuff. And they said things like, if there's a forest fire in real life, it'll be represented in the game if the satellite images have been updated and stuff like that. Sounds mind-blowing. Like, I'm not really into Flight Simulator, but if you're into simulation games, it sounds like it might be the ultimate simulation experience.
Interesting. Well, Age of Empires 4, Jazz. I know you're super excited about this. What'd you think?
It looks amazing. I thought it looked colourful. That was my first reaction. And I was just cussing out people earlier for moaning about cartoony games, but Age of Empires used to have like this sort of desaturated look about it. I suppose that made it look more medieval or something. But like graphically, like it looks really good, looks detailed, and we didn't really get to see that much of it. But I know a lot of people wanted the medieval era back on the subreddits and stuff like that. So people were really happy about that, like the trebuchets flying around and that sort of thing. So you know, we need to learn more about the game and if there's new mechanics and stuff like that, or if it's just going to be like sort of, you know, how they played Gears of War 4 very safe to let the fans know that, yeah, we can make games. I wonder if they're going to play Age of Empires 4 really safe and just sort of basically make a super duper, you know, souped up version of Age of Empires 2. Because Age of Empires 2 just came out as well, and that the remake of Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition or whatever, and that is just absolutely stunning. So I don't know.
You don't know, huh? Yeah, I don't know. I like for an RTS. I never played an Age of Empires game before. I will say though, like it did look interesting. So maybe do we? I'm gonna imagine this game is PC only at this point, right? They haven't announced an Xbox port. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Okay,
There's no Xbox One now.
this is what I've always said. You can't say play the games you want to play with the people you want to play with and the device you want to play with, and then keep a game on PC only. That's bullshit, in my opinion. That runs counter to the narrative that you're trying to say. So here's the thing: if you're gonna put all the Xbox games on PC, then you damn well have to put all the PC games on Xbox. There's no excuse not to. I've been saying this forever. It has keyboard and mouse support, for Christ's sake. I don't know why they don't do this. Like, they ruin their own message. Like, the fact that Age 4 is going to be on PC only and not on Xbox or Gears Tactics for that matter, it shouldn't happen. I don't care. Like, not when you're coming out there and telling people it's about choice and giving people choice about where and how they play. Well, how come you're not giving choice about these games? I don't know. Like, I find it to just be convenient. They talk about choice and stuff when it's convenient for them. With xCloud, it's choice. It's convenient. We're not replacing the console. But when it comes to the actual games, it's always like, well, you know, this is only on PC. Like, well, what about choice? You're the ones talking about choice all the time. I don't have a choice. Here's the thing. I don't want to play in the PC. I've said this before. I've said it often. I much prefer to play on a console, right? So if your platform's all about choice, then I should be able to play those games on my console if I want to. So why can't I? Jez?
Well, Rand, we actually put this question to Microsoft next at XO, I believe, and I should have an answer for you next week. But yeah, I get the sentiment, right? I mean, the thing is about mouse and keyboard support on Xbox, it ain't good enough right now. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried playing a game with mouse and keyboard on Xbox, but like the system still expects a controller to be present. And like if it detects that a controller is disconnected, it behaves like a controller's been disconnected. You can't control the UI without a controller either. The user experience for mouse and keyboard on Xbox is dire right now. And like I think what they want is for that to be a decent experience before they make it a thing. Because it just sucks right now. And I think as well it's a low priority for them because nobody wants it or nobody's using it. So I think it's just the reality of we need to wait, or people need to speak up and say, fix this shit if you want it, because right now nobody's really asking for it. People are asking for Age of Empires on Xbox, but they're not really asking for mouse and keyboard to be better on Xbox and stuff like that.
Right.
I'll try and dig up some more information on it.
I'm just saying I know some people have some, they might explain it away. Like, Indie Gamer says, I guess on the flip side, they have to think about the type of players that will play on console and the cost and port and weigh that up. I mean, I get that. And Jay God says, because the console may be lacking in CPU power, you have to look into what the hardware can and cannot do. Sure, I get that. I get that maybe the Xbox One can't handle or the X can't handle Age of Empires, but I'm sure the Scarlet can. And it's not necessary. I've said this before. I've said it like when was that Forza Street game, or even some of those other games that were like mobile and PC only. Like, I'm not saying I want to play Forza Street, but I'm just saying like when you come to your messaging, like you need to be consistent. If you're saying you're about choice, but the choice only flows one way, that's a problem to me. Like I don't know. Like I've kind of been on that train for a while. Not saying, not saying that I definitely want to play Age of Empires 4 on my Xbox, but I wholeheartedly believe Age of Empires 4 should be playable on Xbox. If your platform is about giving gamers choice about where they want to play and how they want to play, which is their marketing message. I'm not making this up. That's what they've been saying. I don't know. Either way, I got to give a shout out to Adam in the super chat. It says they're working on Age of Empires 2 to Xbox later. They said Tactics and Age of Empires 4 also will be there one day. I don't know when, but they did say this. Yeah, we know that Gears Tactics will be coming to Xbox. We're just not sure if it's day one. Age of Empires 4. I don't know. Did they say that it was coming to Xbox at some point, Jez? I thought it was PC only. But either way, um, you just got to be practice. You got to practice what you preach, you know.
Yeah.
And then
did you ask about the Gears Tactics going to Xbox? Yeah, it is.
yeah, and it's funny because some of the games that weren't at the show, like Gears Tactics and Ori, they announced today that they'll have looks at those games during the Game Awards, which I thought was pretty interesting. So the Game Awards will have gameplay reveal of Gears Tactics as well as the new look at Ori 2, which is less than a month from now. And I did think that was kind of weird Ori 2 wasn't at the show, Jez, considering it's their next game that they're launching. I was like, that seems kind of weird. But I guess if they're gonna do it at the Game Awards, that's okay. Although I wonder why. I wonder if it's because like they're trying to finish the game, if they weren't ready to like make a new trailer or something.
I think like I don't know. There's whatever the business model is for the Game Awards. It seems like they're landing lots of big reveals every year now. Like they're trying to become this sort of legitimate industry annualized event. On the it's the closest thing we've got to a gaming Oscars now, isn't it? Really, you know. For better or worse, some people don't like Jeff Keighley or whatever, but what other awards shows are there? Like, there's a Golden Joysticks, which are nowhere near as big as the Game Awards now, and that's about it. So, I don't know. I guess the thing is that those two games won't be the only reveals at the show. There's going to be like a bunch of third-party games probably there as well.
Yeah, I would imagine
And
the new Batman game would probably be there, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Hold on a second. Yeah?
Oh, Rad's muted. I suppose I should probably...
I didn't do anything.
Where have you gone? Where's Rand gone? He's left me. He's left me all alone.
I just unplugged the power cord in the back.
Guess then.
For 30 seconds and plugged it back in. Sorry about that, Jez.
Oh, thank God.
So, Game Pass. Game Pass was
without the host.
Game Pass. Well, actually, you know what? There's more stuff than Game Pass. You had Crossfire X gameplay for the first time, which actually looked interesting. Last Stop, which I think looks incredible. Minecraft Dungeons. I thought that segment went on a little bit too long. It's coming April 2020. So Microsoft has a game coming in February, Ori 2. They have a game coming in March, which Bleeding Edge. They have Minecraft Dungeons coming in April. They have Wasteland 3 coming in May. They have They Tell Me Why, which is, they said summer, so that could be, June, July, or August. Seems like they got a lot of games coming out in the beginning of next year. And Halo Infinite obviously coming at the end. Now, granted, some of those games may not appeal to you, like Bleeding Edge or Wasteland 3 or whatever, but it definitely seems that there was a time where like Microsoft wasn't releasing anything. Like, they go back to 2017 and it was Halo Wars 2 and it was Super Lucky's Tale. You know what I mean? 2018 Sea of Thieves State of Decay and Forza Horizon. Even this year, 2019 was just what, Crackdown and Gears?
No, I completely forgot about Crackdown.
It was just Crackdown and Gears. Like, there was a point in time where there was nothing in development for Xbox, and now all of a sudden next year you have like 6 games coming out in the first 6 months. It seems like it definitely seems like a change. Now Game Pass,
they want a steady flow.
Yeah, a very steady flow. Now Game Pass, obviously, I think is the thing people are going to be talking about mostly because they tied a lot of like new franchises coming to Xbox through it. First being the Yakuza series, making its debut on Xbox with 3 Yakuza games, Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami 1, and Yakuza Kiwami 2, all coming early 2020, all also coming on Game Pass. I think that was probably the most surprising announcement out of the show. It definitely seemed to get one of the biggest reactions out of people.
Yeah, people were asking for that for a long time, and I think it's sort of like, even if you're not into Yakuza, like I don't know anything about Yakuza. It's just never been on my radar. But it kind of, and that combined with Kingdom Hearts says to me that Microsoft's working harder to get those Japanese games that arbitrarily miss the platform for no reason. And also, like, this was like not announced on stage, but the Final Fantasy XIV MMO is also coming to Xbox in the future as well.
Oh yeah, I
So
mean, so they also had Square Enix show up, and they said all the Final Fantasy games are coming to Game Pass, which is
yeah,
7, 8, and 9, 10 and 10 2, 13, 13 2, Lightning Returns, and 15. And
yeah.
then, I guess Phil told some of the other people before the show that they are going to be working with Square Enix to bring Final Fantasy 14 over. And then they also announced that they're bringing Kingdom Hearts as well. Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 and 2.5 Remix and Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8. Now, you know what's interesting about this is you would think Square Enix would have wanted to release Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 on Xbox before Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. Maybe to get Xbox gamers up to speed about that really complicated story that Kingdom Hearts has before the third
Mm.
one comes out. It's interesting that it's coming now. So obviously Phil's trying his best to get a lot of Japanese support. And I do wonder if Sega, because I think Sega publishes Yakuza, I wonder if they're looking at like the sales of those three games and be like, all right, well, will Xbox gamers support this franchise? If so, we'll bring more games, or if these are the only three. The same thing with like the Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts stuff here. It's
Who
like
owns Atlas?
Atlas is owned by Sega as well, so the Persona games, yeah,
So I guess like maybe they're testing the waters with Yakuza or something.
maybe. I mean, it's quite possible. I mean, there's like I think a new Yakuza game coming next year. Um, but yeah, shout out to Adam for the super chat. It says everyone should play Yakuza 100%. Y'all will love it. I mean, people do talk very highly about Yakuza. But
Yeah.
they announced 50 games coming to Game Pass, 8 available now, like Rage 2. Some coming this holiday, like My Friend Pedro and Witcher 3. Obviously, a whole bunch coming like early 2020. And then, if you're an Ultimate member right now, you can claim a gift which gives you 1 month of EA access, 3 months of Discord Nitro, and 6 months of Spotify Premium for free. And that's good for new users as well as existing users. So if you guys have Ultimate, maybe I'll make a video about this showcasing like how to actually do it or whatever. But you can take advantage of that if you actually use Spotify or any of the other stuff.
Mm.
And then Phil came on stage to end the show, basically said that he can't imagine a show coming in the future where they won't have new game announcements to make. That he's trying to get more third-party support for franchises to come to Xbox, like Jez mentioned, like maybe Persona and stuff like that. And the end of the show with Wasteland, and then of course there was reactions online to everything. So, all in all, like I thought it was an okay show. It wasn't the best, it certainly wasn't the worst. I thought E3 was worse, but maybe because I was like expecting a lot out of E3, even though I knew the games, I was just expecting E3 to be a better put together show, and it was just boring on every front. I will say though, like I do think it's time Microsoft lets gamers look under the curtain. And I say that even though they did let people look at Rare's new IP, but like I really, really want to know what Ninja Theory's team, the Hellblade team, is working on. I want to see that. I really want to
Playground.
know
I
what
want to know
Playground's
Playground.
RPGs, what they're doing. I really want to know what the initiative is working on. And like, even though I'm cool with many different forms of art style, I don't want the art style of all Xbox Game Studios games to be super cartoony and colorful. Like
Yeah.
I think there's a case to be made for diversity and different types of experiences and different types of looks, but that should be a broad range of like here's a game like Grounded, but then here's a game like Gears or like Halo or like The Initiative, and here's like all the stuff in between. Um, so I just hope there's a wide variety of styles and stuff. I just don't want everything to look like Sea of Thieves, even though that game does look great in HDR. I guess is what I'm trying to say. They need to kind of they need to needs to be a bigger variety of stuff. Because if everything's cartoony, then it's just one variety. And I'm not saying they need to be photorealistic like Death Stranding or God of War. I'm just saying like I want like different types of looks. And currently, like some of the way the games look are all very similar to me. But there's a whole bunch of games on the horizon. Um, so yeah, final thoughts on XO Jazz?
I thought it was pretty good. It's it was up there. Um, It was easily the best Inside Xbox show, wasn't it? I
Well,
would
I mean,
say.
like that. I
It's a
mean,
low
that's not
bar.
hard to pull off, Jez.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it was just a cool show. Yeah, I liked the sort of slimmed down format. There wasn't that much cringe. There's one thing that I don't know why corporations struggle so bad with this. It's just like the cringe factor, like the sense that people are acting and the fake enthusiasm and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, I can't speak to it because I don't produce shows for corporations and stuff like that, and it's really it's hard for them to sort of produce these kind of shows when there's so much raw content on YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that, and you can't be raw on stage in a live show. I get that things have to be scripted and stuff like that, and it's not easy to pull off that sort of thing. But I'm glad they kept the talking down to a minimum and just focused on showing us the games and stuff like that. And I still think Nintendo is the best format for that stuff, because it's a bit more raw and fast paced. It doesn't have to be huge and long winded, and it doesn't have to be this sort of like I don't know this documentary. You can just show us some game trailers, you know. And I think
Yeah.
they did that for the most part. A lot of the indie games were great too. Like um in the Idea Xbox montage. Idea Xbox had a new logo as well, I noticed.
I did see
But
that. I did see that. Yeah.
yeah, good stuff. And I really like the Age of Empires studio name, World's End Studio.
You like
Pretty
that?
cool name for a studio. Yeah, I thought it was pretty badass. Or was it World's Edge? World's Edge Studio. I thought that was pretty cool. But the future's bright, man. That was my takeaway from the whole thing. Like, there's something for PC, there's something for Xbox, there's something for Game Pass, there's something for xCloud, like even Minecraft Earth, they had announcements during the show. Not I don't know if it was the show itself, but Minecraft Earth had some announcements too. The fact that xCloud's expanding to Western Europe already is really cool news for me. And I don't know, I just really liked it. I just don't know what people expect sometimes. Like, they can't have like these huge sort of blowout events all the time because they need to hire a million devs to like constantly deliver shockers and stuff like that. But I just feel like they're delivering fans, they're building a platform for the future, and it was a good show. I give it a B plus.
A B plus. I don't know if
I
I
give
go
it
that high. I'd maybe give it like a B or something like that. I don't know. My expectations were in check. If you watched my preview, you knew exactly what to expect. But Super Panda has a super chat. He's got a question. He's like, could that samey look be a little because of Unreal? I don't think so. I don't think it's because of Unreal. Unreal produces a lot of different style of games. Um, but yeah, that was basically XO19. If we talked about Death Stranding, um, so I really hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We're gonna end it here, but we're gonna take some questions, obviously. So hit us up in chat with any questions you may have, and we'll do our best to answer it. And Jez will, do his best to try to get this up on a streaming platform or podcast app platform sooner rather than later. I know we've been trying to do it the day after, maybe as late as 2 days after. It'll be up on Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff. If you enjoyed the podcast, you make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And we should be back next week. But hit us up with the questions, and we will get to answering them. Yeah.
indeed. Thanks for all the support, guys. And remember, if you wanna, help me guilt trip Rand into playing Pokemon, there's a little campaign we're running over here on Untiltify, it's called. I'm gonna link it in the chat again while Rand
Yes.
collates some questions. So if you want to donate to our cause for Gamers Outreach, the link is right there.
Calorix wants to know, what was your favorite moment of the XO event? For me, I really actually enjoyed the Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts announcement. I think that was done, and there was a lot of I don't know, it seemed very playful. It just seemed kind of funny. But I will say, seeing Last Stop, a game from the makers of Virginia, which is a game I love, that really struck a chord with me because
Oh God, Virginia's another game in my backlog.
yeah, So Obi-Wan wants to know if Kingdom Hearts series is going to Game Pass. I thought it was, but apparently it's not. Apparently it's not going to Game Pass. So I'm not really sure. I definitely did think it was the way that the announcements were laid out, but I don't think it's going to be a part of Game Pass like Final Fantasy is and like Yakuza is. I think Yakuza was the most surprising announcement for a lot of people, definitely judging from the reactions around. Um, and Lady Foxfire says, "Hey guys, are you looking forward to Tunic? And have you heard anything new about it?" I am, of course, looking forward to Tunic. That game looks great. But unfortunately, I haven't heard anything about it. But I do believe it's playable at the show floor. Have you heard anything, Jez?
I haven't heard anything about Tunic. I mean, that's the game with the fox, right?
Yes, that was the game with the fox.
Yeah, I don't know much about that game, but it did look really awesome. I should have sent Matt to play it maybe, but I might hit up the PR company and see if I can do some coverage of that if people are interested. But yeah, Tunic looks great. But what the one game at EXO that I was really excited about was to get a launch date for Carry On. Have you seen this game?
Yes, that looks pretty cool. It's from Devolver Digital.
Yeah,
Um,
Carry On is a game from Devolver Digital made by the people that made Butcher, if you ever played that.
mhm.
Just like a side-scrolling Doom tribute. Like in Carry On, you play as a giant amorphous blob and you roll around a sort of side-scrolling science facility eating scientists. It looks hilarious and very violent and bloody, and we all know I like those kind of games.
Yeah,
Cryptopsy says, "Say Fox again, Jez. Fox, Fox, Fox."
Fox. Shout out
What?
to kids. Shout out to
That's
Kid Smooth. I see Kid in chat. He was a couple of his Twitter responses yesterday. I saw some of his tweets had me laughing pretty good. Because there was a lot of people on social media that were basically like, "Don't support Xbox. They're ruining gaming." You know, uh,
Who said that?
just some panderer.
I hate pandas.
Yeah. Let's see. Another question from Dark Times Rand. What's the point of all that Scarlet Power when 90% of Xbox Studios games could run on a mobile phone? Interesting question. Interesting question.
Well, technically, all Xbox games can run on a mobile phone now, thanks to the power of xCloud, baby. But the thing is, like, a lot of the studios that Microsoft purchased, they're not even really known for photorealism. I think, like, the game we see from the Hellblade team will be photorealistic. One of the reasons they bought Hellblade was because they had their own motion capture studio and face laser scanning stuff. They ain't gonna have ditched that. They're not gonna let that stuff go to waste. So, like, you can expect the next game from Ninja Theory to be photorealistic, I would have thought. Um, I don't think Fable obviously isn't going to be photorealistic, but I expect a high fidelity caliber of graphics from that game. Even if it's stylized, I think it won't look like the kind of game that he's talking about that'll run on a mobile phone. I think it'll be very detailed and it'll be like have lots of shaders and tons of foliage and stuff like that. But like there are other projects that they're supposedly rumored to be working on, and we have Halo Infinite's going to be photorealistic, and Gears, the next Gears will be photorealistic, and Gears Tactics and Wasteland will be
Well, I mean, even
photorealistic.
Gears is stylized to a certain degree, but
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. But like, the initiative too, like that could be photorealistic. But I do agree there. But like, getting photorealism is like not something that Xbox is really known for, and I always thought that's why they purchased, so they could like build on what they did with Hellblade in terms of visuals. Because at the time, like the character acting in Hellblade was cutting edge. Like the world wasn't as detailed as some of the other games out there, but like the characters looked so damn good. I don't think Microsoft's gonna let that go to waste.
yeah. Let's see what else we got here. How much of
Okay,
new
Calyrex is
Pokemon has
challenging.
Jez played already? How much have you played of Pokemon, Jez?
Okay, so I've just evolved Sobble into Drizzile. It's level 20, I think. And I'm just heading towards the first gym mission. I spent a long time catching Pokemon in the wild area, like, because I'm trying to savor it, I'm trying to take it slow. I'm not reviewing it, I'm not writing anything about it. I'm just sort of taking it slow and having fun. So try to catch as many as I can, So I want to complete the decks because I'm a nerd. So yeah, I'm just about to do the first gym, basically. And one of the things you can do, Rand, is you can like you wear it because it's based on soccer, right? So the gyms are like football stadiums, and you can design your own jersey and put your own number on it. Most people are putting like 69 and 420 and stuff like that on it.
Huh.
Pretty
Interesting.
funny.
Okay. We have a question from Poe1980. It says, for Xbox One X, does it matter if your TV is 60 versus 120 hertz? Sorry about the boring question. That just is like your refresh rate. So you really don't need 120 hertz if you're playing on consoles because like most games
I think isn't he
won't.
asking for Scarlet because
Well,
Scarlet's
no,
going to
he
be
says
120
for
hertz.
Xbox One X.
Oh, for Xbox One X, you don't need 120 hertz.
Yeah, I was just saying because that would basically be able to display 120 frames per second. Most games on the X barely can do 60. So, like, yeah, you obviously, if your TV can do 120 hertz or variable refresh rate, that's going to become, that'll be useful on the X in some situations. Maybe more useful next gen. But I think more 120 hertz is much more valuable as like a monitor, like a gaming monitor, and you have like a really high rig PC that you can run games over 120 frames. That's where you'll see it, because a lot of people don't know. Like you need a 60 hertz to actually see 60 frames. Otherwise, the TV won't display it. But like yeah, I don't think there's a lot of TVs out there that do 4K at 120 hertz yet. I mean, I could be wrong, but
Yeah, I don't think so. You'd have to buy like one of those 1440p gaming ones. I
what
don't
else we
know.
got here?
That's the irony. Like, TV monitor technology is a bottleneck for a while. Like, for the longest time, it was super hard to get a decent, affordable 4K monitor with a 60 hertz refresh rate and FreeSync, all baked in the same product. The only like monitors were like that LG monitor that I could find. That was like really expensive, and I was just like, you know what? Can't be bothered.
Meg, I'm
Can't
busy
be
right
bothered with that.
now, so um,
So,
just
any
give
more
me
questions,
a steak stir fry.
Randy, my boy?
Sorry about that. Let's see.
That's
Another
okay.
question. Let's see. We need a AAA third-person action game. Agree? Sure. I would love to see a third-person AAA action game. I would love to see Initiative make that. I'm not disagreeing you. I would love to see more big-budget Xbox games. Like I'm also very much like. Here's the thing. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I don't care if the game's AAA. I don't care if the game's AA. I don't really care what the game looks like. To me, the most important thing about any game is it good? Is the game great? I play plenty of indie games that are better than any AAA games. And just because a game is AAA doesn't mean it's any good. And just because a game has photorealistic graphics doesn't mean it's something special. What matters to me is if the game's great or not. So that's what I'm looking forward to. With that said, yeah, I love the big budget productions. Like I can tell Star Wars Jedi is a big budgeted, action adventure game. Like would I like to see Xbox take their own spin on that in some way or shape or form? Goddamn right. Goddamn right I would love to see that. But then I also love a game like Ori and Will o' the Wisps, which is a small indie title, which is a Metroidvania. I'm all for many different types of experiences. And I've always said that. I've been very consistent about that. I'm one of the few people that plays a variety of different types of games out there. I'm not just someone who only plays AAAs or only plays the exclusives. I play literally everything. So that's kind of my stance on it. So, Jez, what do you think?
Sorry, what was the question?
That you want AAA games on Xbox, basically. AAA action, whatever, like Uncharted like games.
Yeah, I personally don't really care. I'm like happy with the output, but like you say, I realize that my tastes aren't always the same as everyone else's. Like I couldn't finish either of the most recent Tomb Raider games because I don't know, they just bored me. So like when it comes to AAA action games, there has to be something unique to hook me in. Like the last AAA third-person action game I really, really loved was probably Metal Gear Solid Rising, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, and that was ages ago. And I just love that because it had Kojima-isms in it, even though it was developed by Platinum, and B, you could slice people into itty bitty chunks, which was amazing. And God, I would love a Metal Gear Rising 2, by the way. Um, having said that, I would love for that to happen, just because I know people want it to happen so bad. And Microsoft does have like a wealth of IP it could use to do that, like Perfect Dark, for example. Like make a AAA reboot of Perfect Dark if we're rebooting things like that again, you know.
Yeah.
Or even Phantom Dust. Like I really wanted to see Phantom Dust like come back. And I know it's not exactly AAA action sort of what people are talking about, but like done properly, like with that unique gameplay and stuff, like action magic combat and stuff like that. That could have been amazing if it was executed by the right studio and the right team. You know, it didn't have to be like this multiplayer game. Like I really do think there's something about Phantom Dust that makes it compelling, and I'm really sad that they couldn't execute. So I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think we're gonna end the show. We appreciate everybody tuning in on Friday. I was happy to get the show actually done because we weren't gonna do it yesterday. Jez was busy, and we almost missed it because different time zones. Jez is in the UK today and not Germany, so I'm happy we were able to do the show. I always have a great time podcasting with Jez. I learn a
Have a good
lot.
podcast from you, man.
And hopefully everybody listening enjoys the show, whether you're here live with us or you're listening later on the podcast apps. If you enjoyed the podcast, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, follow Jez on Twitter. All that information is linked below. Donate to the Pokemon Ryan plays Pokemon thing. I'll be playing Pokemon after I finish Star Wars. And yeah, anything else you want to say before we get on out of here, Jez?
Yeah, like if you're still looking for XO content, we've got like loads of interviews coming days and next week, like from Matt Booty, Shannon Loftus, Aaron Greenberg, like the whole works talking about, will Xbox ever break Japan, talking about Scarlet, talking about the mouse and keyboard thing that we talked about earlier, like literally everything we can talk about. So you know, keep your eye on that. And yeah, send me a tweet, DM me if you've got any questions,
Yeah.
and I always love hearing from you guys.
And
And also donate to our bloody charity.
yeah,
Here's a link.
and
Donate to it.
if you want an invite to the Discord that we private Discord we have for Xbox too,
Oh yeah.
DM me or Jez, and we will send you an invite. It's a pretty small Discord. So yeah, so have a good rest of the week, guys, and keep it gaming, and we'll see you next week. Later.
Hugs.